This particular story happened when my cousins and I decided to play hide and seek outside at night. We all ranged between the ages of 13 to 16 years old. There were about 7 of us, and one of us will become the seeker, and the rest of us will hide. You know, the usual hide and seek stuff. We usually will play outside my backyard because my house was close to some woods. Now my favorite spot to hide was in between these bushes that had a little opening to navigate through. I could lay inside and be hidden, especially at night. Obviously, we had barriers where not to go, so everyone knew where not to hide. So we all gathered up in a circle and blindfolded one of my cousins and let them count to 100. We all hurried and went to our hideouts. I was already in my spot pretty quickly, and I could see where everyone was going. One of my cousins named Uriel hid near my bush area. I got a little upset because if he were to make any noise, he would give out my location. I then whispered to him, "Psst, hey, don't make any noise." He just nodded with a grin on his face, and I did the same. As a few minutes passed though, I could see some of the hiders being found. As people were being found, I mentally got prepared and started to hold my breath a bit for stability. I would occasionally turn to Uriel to see if he was doing the same. As time passed, it began to get pretty dark. I could barely see maybe a couple yards away at this point. I saw some movement around the distance, but they eventually left. I turned around and I whispered to Uriel, "Phew, that was close, dude." But then we heard footsteps walking towards us. But then the footsteps just stopped in front of the bush. I was like, damn it, he found me. But the person wasn't moving. They just stood right in front of my hideout. I began to get a little paranoid only because it went on for about a minute. So I stood up and I said, "Okay man, you got me. Stop messing around." But when I looked to see, there was no one in sight. In fact, Uriel, who was near me, got up as well. We both just looked at each other for like a split second, until I heard a tree branch crack near the distance. We both walked over to the tree, and I just froze. There was someone standing facing towards me, but I couldn't see their face. I said, "Hey, for real, stop messing around." But the person just stood there. I realized it couldn't be anyone familiar or one of my cousins. So I inched closer to the figure, but until I could get any closer, it moved away and straight into the woods. For some reason I ran to see who it was, but by the time I could catch it, it just went at a distance and stood about a good 30 yards away, just staring at me. It then slowly faded away with the darkness of the forest. My cousin Uriel was right behind me, and all he said was it was a black figure, and he said it looked like it wanted to lure us in and into its trap. All I know is that I'd rather not play hide and seek anytime soon. The story will always send chills down my spine every time I talk about it. So I was living in Chicago at the time, but decided to give my brother a visit at his home in Westside, Michigan. He owns a blueberry farm, and since it was summertime, he would pick berries during the day. But I would surprise him and his family that I would arrive. So the drive is around 2 hours, and I will make it all the way to his home. So I pulled into his driveway, and one of the kids opening the blinds seemed to go tell him that I arrived. Keep in mind though that it had been months since last seen him. Anyways, I arrived to the front door and began to knock. I could see from the front window that someone was coming from upstairs. I immediately started to wave hi, and I noticed it was the same boy who was at the blinds. It was probably my brother's son, Michael. So I yelled out, "Hey, Michael!" But he just ignored me and walked straight from the upstairs to the basement door, which was kind of strange. You could see Michael open the basement door and go downstairs. It was actually kind of eerie. It was like he wasn't himself. I kept knocking, but nobody came up to the door. At this point, I picked up my phone and called my brother. To my surprise, he picked up rather quickly. I said, "Hey man, I'm at your house," and told him to let me in. He then said that he wasn't there and that he would be over in about half an hour. I said, "Okay, how about your son?" "My son?" he said. I said, "Yeah, your son Michael went downstairs in the basement." There was a pause on the phone. My brother said, "What do you mean? Michael's right here next to me." I was shocked, and I turned to see inside again, and the basement door was still open. So I knew I wasn't seeing things. I just answered, "Are you sure?" He then said, "I'm on my way over." About half an hour passed, and we searched the whole house and found nothing but the basement door open. Who knows what I saw, but my brother suggested he forgot to close the door. But I know I wasn't seeing things, so how could this be? About a couple of weeks passed, and I received a phone call from my brother, saying how his son Michael would see and hear things at night. That he would see another boy in the house. Hopefully, it's just in our heads, but I know it's something much, much more than that.